Welcome to Highlighted, a Life Church Midweek Podcast. Here, we're on a journey to look for ways to make our sermons more practical in our everyday lives and want to inspire you to live out your faith every single day, not just on Sundays. In each episode, we highlight our sermons and our ministries to see how God is working in our church and through our community. And as always, I'm sitting here with the great Pastor Joshua. And man, talk about working through our community this month, right? And we are, if you didn't know, it's September. And do you know
mean one thing?
What does that mean?
Missions Collective. And man, we love Missions Collective.
Yeah, and so I bet you're sitting there at home watching this on YouTube, listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you're thinking to yourself, man, what is Missions Collective? I'm not a part of that, but you are. You are a part of that. We are the Missions Collective together because it takes not just one of us, but it takes all of us to go and spread the good news of Jesus. So we are celebrating, highlighting our missionaries, not just in Roanoke, not just in the U.S., but all over the world this month. And it's going to be a great month. So let's dive into it. Pastor Sarah brought an amazing word on Sunday. You were gone. You abandoned us. No.
I did.
But, man, what a great kickoff to Missions Collective. It was Labor Day weekend, so kind of got to sleep in Monday. I didn't, but...
Yeah, me neither.
But I like to pretend that I got to sleep in Monday and like I had a nice, easy day. But sometimes that's not always the case. But, man, what a great kickoff. What a great weekend. And let's talk about Missions Collective. Why do we do it?
Yeah, so here's the thing, and I like how you always say this, we are the Missions Collective, right? This is not just the job of one or two people. It's not just the job of one or two organizations. When we say we are the Missions Collective, we're talking about all the missionaries we support. We're talking about the Assemblies of God and all the missionaries that they have. We're talking about every church, our church, and every church that does missions. And we understand that it's bigger than just us. Now, not everybody calls it the Missions Collective, right? But we do, and we understand, and we say that it's so much more than us. We also say that the Mission Collective stands with 4 pillars, right? And one of those you guys talked about on Sunday, was giving. And we started with the faith promise cards. I know you got one sitting here ready to go to talk about in a little bit, but these cards are just really simple, right? They say, if God will provide it, we'll give it, and we'll let him do the rest, right? He can multiply it. Pastor Sarah told a story of a missionary on Sunday that just was obedient to God. The people that he was ministering to were going to starve and die. Basically, there was famine in the land and no food, no anything. And God said, hey, I want you to put your food out for them. And it just didn't run out, like for a month, I think she said, which is crazy. Like we read about that stuff in Scripture, but thinking about it happening in the here and now today, like talk about the Missions Collective, right?
Yeah, and talk about faith of this missionary and his family. Like there's a famine going through. I only have this little bit left. And God's just telling me to put it out for everyone else.
So that's like the epitome of what it means to have a faith promise, right? That we're saying, if God provides it and we believe that he will, then we will happily give it for the kingdom and use it for that. Listen, we know God doesn't need our money, but he does need our hearts. He wants our hearts, more importantly. And we know that obedience with our money is tied to our heart and what is truly in our heart. So that's the first pillar, giving. The second pillar is prayer. Like we'll be talking about this. How can we pray for our missionaries? So we have cards for all of the missionaries we support up on the wall in the lobby, and you can take those cards, pray for those missionaries, learn more about them. But these are families that have uprooted. These are individuals who have uprooted their entire family and went somewhere else to start a new life for the purpose of sharing Jesus early and sharing Jesus often.
That's weird. I remember that last week.
It's almost like you told me that. And so, yeah, absolutely. And so it's good. But we can pray for them because some of these missionaries, some of these couples are young and they're having kids. And I can't imagine what that must feel like, being so far separated from your family and knowing you're in a place where you are spiritually this insane minority spiritually.
Yeah.
Right?
And I feel like a lot of times we like to picture our missionaries as like, man, they're these great heroes of the faith. They're going out and doing the hard work. They're getting in the nitty gritty. And they're these superheroes. And they don't need us. They're kind of doing their. We
Right.
get to support them, and that's great. I love supporting them, but they're amazing. And then you sit down and you start to talk to some of them, and you realize, wow, you're normal.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like
a hero
you
of
have
the
a
faith, yes, but not a superhero.
you
that
have
can
a
just do
family, you
anything.
have needs, you
Yeah.
have you have responsibilities, not just there, but even back here, back at home. And even if this is your mission field, like you still have responsibilities. So it's always humbling to sit down with some of our missionaries whenever I get the chance to, just because you get to hear not just a little bit more of the why they do it, not
Yeah.
just a little more of their heart, but you also kind of get this understanding, right, that these are real people,
Yeah.
right? And just as much as I have struggles in my daily life, just as much as I have needs in my daily life, just as much as I have complications in my daily life, they have those too.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to think that, oh, they're in another country or they're doing this or they're doing that, they're not like me.
Right.
They're so much like me.
They are. Yeah. And super sneaky segue there. I like that. Because our third pillar after prayer is understanding. It's understanding and where the atmosphere in which these missionaries minister. It's understanding what their families go through and why it's important that we partner with them in all of these areas. It's understanding what they do. There's misconceptions, right? Like not all of our missionaries are standing on a street corner proclaiming the name of Jesus in a different language, right? They're doing it in creative and fun and innovative ways where they're discipling people. We have one missionary who helps build hydroponic things for people to grow their own food, and I love it because every time he talks fishy friends is what he calls all his supporters and people who kind of follow him, and we have a special connection with him anyways. But understanding kind of what they go through on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis is a part of the Missions Collective. We can't truly support them without understanding where they're at.
Yeah, and also understanding what they're sacrificing to
Yeah.
even do what they're doing. And man, I love this place, and I'm so glad I get to call this place home. But honestly, sometimes I don't feel like I sacrifice enough
Yeah.
after hearing their stories, after hearing what they've had to overcome, after what they've had to go through to even be where they're at, right?
Yeah.
Not even in the day-to-day being there, but even just to get there.
Yeah.
To listen to
Good.
these stories and how they have just overcome adversity after adversity and trial after trial. And through all of that, they remain faithful to God. And I think, man, like, it's amazing what they're doing in sharing the good news. It's amazing what they're doing in a place that I will probably never get a chance to go.
Yeah.
But it's also amazing just to know the faithfulness of God working in their life,
Yeah.
right? Before they even reach a single person, their life is a testament to God's faithfulness, right? Before they even have a conversation that leads someone to Jesus, their way to get to where they are is a testament to God's faithfulness. So, man, I just love Missions Collective. I love that third pillar so much just because last year we started doing something special. We brought in some missionaries, and rather than just have them preach about a thing or have them preach and ask for money, right? We understand that's a part of it.
Sure.
But actually asking questions and getting down to the why do you do this? What is burdened in your heart? Because like sometimes I don't care enough for people to even go next door.
Yeah.
Like how would you drop your whole life? Why would you do this? And how do you keep saying yes each time you come back home?
Yeah.
And that's the one that always gets me is the how do you keep saying yes? Because man, I've heard some stories and just it's crazy to know what some of our missionaries have gone through.
Yeah.
Just to get back out there, right? Just to know that they're coming home for a short season, just to turn around and go back out there. And man, honestly, if it was me, I'd say, man, my vacation's over. I'm back home.
Yeah.
It's like I can't vacation that long, much less go out there and be doing the hard work that they're doing. So man, I just love our third pillar just because it puts so much perspective.
Right. It gives us that idea and understanding of these people are truly sacrificing something. It's not just a job that they've picked up. It's not just something that they do. It's something that they are. It is ingrained inside of them. And so you mentioned when they come home and it's hard to go back. And when they come home, it's not just go see my family and hang out. It's usually go see my family for a little bit, raise funds, go to churches. They're doing so much. Even when they're here, they're cramming all this stuff into one little time frame that they have. And by the way, they have X amount of dollars they have to raise, because here's what happens, and we don't always understand this, but churches, a lot of times when churches run into hard times, the first place that things get cut is missions. And so, we've kind of made the commitment here that that's not going to be the case, that there's a lot of other things we can cut before we have to cut our missions giving. But that being said, understanding that these missionaries are living in the same world we are, that grocery prices are higher, ministry material prices are higher. The world is changing. They need some of the technology that we need, that we use on a weekly basis. They need vehicles to get to and from places, and vehicles aren't cheap. And so they need sound equipment, and they need like all these things. Plus, they have to have somewhere to live. They have to feed their kids. Many of them have to send their kids they send their kids to school, or they have to buy homeschool materials. Like, it's so easy to just think, oh, they're out doing ministry all the time, it's okay. It's not really affecting their entire. It is impacting their entire lives. And that understanding pillar puts us in a place where we can stop and say, okay, let me look at the current reality instead of what my assumptions are. By the way, that's good practice, whether you're talking about missionaries or anyone other than yourself. We should always seek to understand where people are coming from. It makes it easier for us to choose trust, right? What Pastor Sarah talked about. It makes it easier for us to do all of those things, those leadership, kingdom core values that we've talked about for years and years and years now. But choose kingdom trust being one of them. And so when we understand people better, it slows things down, right? And gives us real, tangible understanding versus just the assumptions that we jump into. And we base a lot of things on assumptions. But the reality is that when we begin to understand, and I'm excited about the understanding, and I know we have another pillar to talk about, but I want to talk about this because we did start doing the interviews, and I struggled this year with like, okay, do I want to bring in a world missionary this year? Because we did U.S. missions last year with that. We had Anthony Saladino and Lisa Cox from Chi Alpha and Teen Challenge. And which is cool because you got to go to a Teen Challenge event this past week.
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to talk about that real quick and talk about understanding.
Yeah.
I spent the last week, or I guess last week now, with a bunch of Teen Challenge guys and their leaders, and they did a camp for them, basically. And every year they do a Teen Challenge camp in this region for all these guys to kind of give them that camp experience instead of just being on their Teen Challenge campus, just kind of going through their day-to-day. And yeah, there's still some of that day-to-day stuff that they have to do, but there's also just a little bit of room for them to have fun. And it was the craziest thing, because if you ask me, hey, are these troubled teens that have gotten sent out of school time and time again, or have been on drugs, or have been addicted to something, or have been in and out of juvie, or whatever the deal is, like, I would have told you no, right? Because these kids are the most fun, down to earth, loving, even, which is like not your expectation going to something like this, right? And we have a lot of preconceptions in our mind of what it's going to be like. Man, like, this is going to be a rough week. This is going to be a hard week. But man, no, these kids just loved one another. They were really brothers when it came down to it. They were picking on each other. They were loving on each other. And man, it was just such a fun and beautiful time just to see how much love that they had for one another, despite where they had been, despite where they are, despite they have to be there, right? They didn't have a choice to go there. But man, they're using the most of it, and they're believing that, God has me here for a purpose. God has me here for a reason. And it's not just because I'm a bad kid. Yeah. Right. And that's what their director said at the beginning of the week. He's like, hey guys, like, this, but I tell you this all the time. I'm not a warehouse for bad kids. Right. I'm not a warehouse manager. Right. I'd hate that. But I'm here because I really believe in you guys. Yeah. And I believe that, despite what you've walked through, the best is yet to come. And even though you don't want to be here, right? You'd rather be at home. That's not a secret. That's not something that will pretend that you don't want to be at home. But despite what you've walked through, right? We're believing that God has you here for a purpose. And he's going to use this time to really turn you into a man of God. and not just use this time to punish you, not just use this time because you've been bad, but really use it to shape your family. And right, that's there's so much vision in that.
Yeah.
And it really just grabbed my heart. And there's such a difference between knowing about Teen Challenge and actually going and
Right.
walking with it. And man, these kids are the coolest kids in the world. They were like, Mr. Paul. They called me Mr. Paul, made me feel really
You're
old.
You're old. That's how you know you're old, man.
Yeah, but they were calling Mr. Paul. Are you coming back next year, right? I said, yeah. Like I'm in. And I told my
That's
friend
cool.
that I did this event with. I said, hey man, like you do another one of these, let me know. These kids are so cool.
Yeah.
These kids are so awesome. And man, what a just a great way to understand.
Yeah.
And also not just understand who these kids are or what this organization believes or what they do on a weekly basis, but really understand that these kids aren't that different from your kids.
Yeah.
And even though it might feel like they're miles away from the pastor's kids that try to do everything right, not always get it right, but to really feel like, man, like you'd be friends with my friend Malachi. Like you have a lot of the same interests. You do this. It's really similar to this guy that I know. And to know that, like just as much as they're like your kids, they have parents that are like you.
Yeah.
And they have backgrounds that aren't always bad. Right? And a lot of times we think, man, I ended up here because I had a bad background. I had bad parents. And sometimes that's the case. And sometimes you can't help where you come from. But sometimes these kids come from good backgrounds.
Yeah.
And you would never expect it. They'd be the last one you'd expect to be there.
Yeah.
But to really understand that, man, like these aren't bad kids. These aren't troublemakers. And they're not just going there to be punished, but they're going to shape their future.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to learn that there's more to life than living for myself.
That's good.
And they leave that place encouraged. They leave that place feeling loved. They leave that place with friends they'll never forget.
Yeah.
And they leave that place with a love and a passion and a zeal for the Lord like I've never seen. So man, it was a really cool week, and I just love that we also get to support a local center here,
too.
And we also support a Global Teen Challenge as well.
Yeah.
And so, man, it's always a fun time.
That's really cool. It's funny that you mentioned that because from an understanding perspective, you were gone all week at that. I left on Saturday, and of course wasn't here Sunday, but or Monday for that matter. I was with a group of pastors' kids this week or this weekend. We do our network host a retreat for ministry kids and kids whose parents are pastors or ministers in some way, and it's a lot of the stuff that you mentioned. I could say the same thing about them. So they, Pastor Adam, our district youth director, and his wife Christy host this, and they always ask somebody to come along and do devotions and help, things like cook and things like that. So we've done it. This was our second time doing it over the course of a number of years, and man, to understand that these kids are experiencing church differently than any other kid, than any other adult. As a pastor and a father, the first one was super challenging to me. This one's super challenging to me. But because I hope that they get something out of it, but what I get out of it is a reminder that my kids experience what we do here differently than anyone else. And to understand that is important. Understand it as a church, understand it as a pastor, understand it as a dad. For you to understand it, right? Because my kids are super connected to you, right? They as far as I'm concerned, they see everything you do and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to be just like this guy, except for those big rimmed glasses. They don't care for those. Well, one of them does, but the other ones don't. I'm just kidding. And but it's interesting that you can say that about the Teen Challenge camp that you were at. I can say, this understanding of pastors' kids and minister kids. And it just reminds us that this pillar is so important, and we spent a lot of time on it, but it's one that is going to take the most time. It's easy to pray for someone. It's easy to give money. It's hard to get into life with them okay? And this is why it's important that we do. And so this year for Missions Collective, I struggled with who to bring in, but I encountered a couple of months ago a ministry here in Roanoke that is just an incredible ministry. It's Love Life Roanoke, and they work with individuals who are looking to not have an abortion or possibly looking for options instead of abortion. And they do an incredible job. I don't want to take any of her thunder. She's got a lot to share, and I've got a lot of questions to ask. But the leader of that for the she's a pastor as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure she would call herself that, but I'll call her that. She is going to be here for the Understanding Pillar Week, and we're going to interview her. In addition to that, I also had the opportunity this past year to work with Blue Ridge Women's Center. Man, if you have not went and just toured their facility, talked with them about what they offer, incredible. And when you couple these two things together, you end up with ministry to some of the most broken and painful situations. And yet they're doing it well. And so we, as a church, one of the things I've wanted to do since I became pastor was have some local missions that we can give to. We want to give, but also that people can go and be a part of. And so these two ministries are coming to the Understanding Sunday, and we're going to interview them together. They're excited about it. It's different than anything they've ever done. And so I had a Zoom call with Abby, the leader of Love Life Roanoke, and she was like, normally I just come in and give my spiel. And I was like, not this time. And she was like, well, if it goes really well, we might do this somewhere else. And I'm like, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. And I explained why we do it and how we do it and what we're looking for when we do it. And she's super excited. So here's the thing. We'll have tables set up out in the lobby to get more information. But this isn't just about where your money is going to go. This is about where you can go this year, next year. Like the whole year, there's places to serve.
Yeah, and it's not like you have to go an hour away to the Virginia Tech campus. Right? No.
It's right here.
Right here. It's like 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Some of it can be, it's the pillars, right? You can give, you can pray. It's understanding where these people, these individuals and missionaries, these are missionaries that come from. And then our last pillar is encouragement. And let me tell you, there isn't one of us that doesn't like encouragement, right? Even if you know you haven't lost weight, it feels good for somebody to say, have you lost weight? And you're like, no, I found some, but I hadn't lost any. And they're like, well, you must be carrying it different. You're looking good today. It just feels good, right? Well, so does things like, man, I'm so proud that we have a ministry in Roanoke that is not hateful, but is loving, that wants to share Jesus with everyone no matter their circumstances. And this is what Love Life, one of the things that struck me was that their mission is not just to end abortion, right? Their mission is to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. Because they believe one day, one of their goals, which is for abortion to not be the way it is today, right? That ministry would still go on and do what it's supposed to do in sharing Jesus.
Yeah, and it's a super exciting week because not only do we get to understand, right? Not only are they going to have tables set up in the lobby, but we're also taking them on one of their adoption weeks that same week. So September 22nd through 28th, the whole week, right? We're going to be partnering with them, doing things with them. We're going to be doing a special house of prayer that Wednesday, just centered and circled around what they're praying for and believing for in this city, right? Not just around the nation, but all over the nation. They have centers, right? They're doing this everywhere. It started in North Carolina, but they're doing it here.
Yeah.
And man, like as someone who was born and raised here, not you, right? Because you came from the hillbilly, hillbilly town. But I was born and raised here, lived
Mossy,
here,
West Virginia,
all my life, and of all of the places, I end up here.
Yeah,
right. They have, I think, 19 locations that they're at all over the U.S. and growing. And man, like what a special thing to come and partner with. So we're doing an adoption week. You might have seen these in the lobby. It says, "What is Love Life?" And then the other side says Adoption Week. But it has each of the ways that we're partnering with them. We're going to connect, grow, serve, and go.
Right.
So it just sounds a little familiar.
I wonder if that sounds like something we've heard.
Yeah, it's going to sound a little familiar.
So hopefully you've got some margin in your life to be a part of this. Okay, that was bad. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but we're gonna partner with them. We're gonna hear them on Sunday, hear their story, hear really why they do what they do. Not just, we know it's not about money. It's not even about a goal, but it's because they love these people that for a lot of people, they seem unlovable. And we get to partner with them. We're going to spend the day fasting and praying on Wednesday. That's why we're doing House of Prayer. And then I'm super excited for Saturday. We're going to be doing a prayer walk at 9 a.m., a little early for a Saturday, right? That's my sleep-in day. But, man, I'm just so excited to be just joining with them and partnering with them and really believing that God's going to use this time of prayer.
Yeah, and if you're like, well, wait a minute, a prayer walk, I'm not really suited to walk a whole lot. She when speaking with her, she was like, be sure to tell everybody this can also be a prayer set. Whatever you have to do, right? It's a prayer walk in general, but they have places for people to sit, people to take breaks, people not to walk at all. They just want people to come out and pray, and we want to support. We're going to be partnering. It's really cool. So other churches have the same adoption week. And so basically, just so there's no confusion when we say adoption week, this is adopting that ministry for a week and coming alongside them. It's not committing to adopt someone or something. It's the ministry of it. And so there's been some confusion this week, and so I always like to make that clear. But also that day, there's going to be multiple churches there at the prayer walk. And so we're going to get to partner not just with the ministry, but with some area churches that have also selected this as their adoption week. We're gonna spend, it's not very long, it's like an hour and a half, just praying. They're going to give us some very clear specifics on what we can pray for, and you're going to be blown away at the statistics in your city. They're unreal. The things that we don't even recognize or realize. And so I just encourage you to it might be a little early, I know, for some of us, but get up and come out to this, even if you can't do the walk piece. Come and be a part of what's happening in the prayer time. Be a part of the prayer and fasting on Wednesday, and be here on Sunday. And listen, that encouragement, these two ladies that are coming on Sunday are doing some incredible things for God. And so I would ask that you come ready to encourage them, right? Ready to just appreciate them for what they're doing. I'm not saying you have to come and bring gifts and all this stuff. I'm just saying come ready to give a word of encouragement.
You could bring me a gift if you want to bring a gift.
Any day. Yeah.
Any day,
But come ready to do that, right? As far as encouragement goes, we're going to see this, but we have, for all of our missionaries, we have postcards, we have international stamps ready to be sent out for you to just jot a quick word down. We have all their email addresses and stuff. We're working on that to get all that together for you to have so that you can get those things sent out. Because our missionaries need encouragement. It can be lonely. It can be hard. And they need to remember that they have a support system here cheering them on, praying for them. I was reminded this weekend of something that a dear friend used to say all the time. He signed all of his letters this way. He was the district youth director when I was a youth pastor. His name is Chet Caudell. And he would sign every letter with "In your corner, cheering loudly." And our missionaries need that, right? Local, United States, nationally and internationally, they need us cheering them on. And so the 4 pillars: prayer, giving, understanding, and encouragement. It's the 4 pillars of the Missions Collective. That is who we are. The Missions Collective, and that's the things we can do.
And that's weird because I could be a part of all 4 of those.
You could be a part of all 4 of them right here at Life Church, believe it or not. And so we're excited, man. I can't wait for the rest of the month. Also, we have just as a kind of a reminder, we have our Around the World Missions Dinner. That is just an incredible time where you get to try all kinds of different food. It's a great
you get to fill up before the fasting and prayer that Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly, because Wednesday's coming. So if you haven't signed up for that, you don't have to sign up for it if you're just coming. But if you want a table, you want to represent a country and cook some food from a country, I hear you're doing a country?
I am. I don't know. You're
Oh,
gonna have to. You're gonna have to come and
You're gonna have
find
to
out.
come and find out. But so every table doesn't just have food; they have decorations. They have all kinds of stuff. You guys did Japan last year, right?
We did, yeah.
Yeah. And so super excited about that, and can't wait for that. It's always a great time, and it's a great opportunity for people to get introduced to missions, and a place where we can do missions by inviting people in our mission field, right? Our world into this to see.
Because who's gonna say no to free food?
Right, especially for amazing free food, because everybody's like at
last
the top
year,
of their game.
Last year we were sweating into that food. We were bleeding into that food. I don't know if it was. No, I'm just playing. But
so
but
yeah,
it was a good time.
Make that a part of what you're planning on doing this month. Mark your calendars, get it in, and be here.
September 22nd, 4 p.m.
Love it.
So yeah, it's a fun
Love
time. I love Missions Collective. I'm glad it's early this year, right? It's normally been in November. We've moved it forward in the year, and man, it's also a great year because there's 5 Sundays in September this year.
Yeah.
So we just get one little extra week out of it.
Little extra missions push there, which I'm excited because our students are going to do that.
Yeah, our students are going to be leading the 5th Sunday. I'm going on vacation. You're going on vacation. No, we'll be here.
But but they're leading, and I'm excited for that because we get to see them do what God's called them to do. Many of them are called into ministry, called into, even if it's not full time, they're called into serving. Like
all of us, yeah.
And they do so well. So I'm excited for that. So it's going to be we've only just begun. Pastor Sarah did an incredible job launching us into Missions Collective and our Missions Month, and we're excited to keep it going.
Yeah, and as always, there's so much going on at Life. There's so many ways to get involved, especially this month that we're just diving headfirst straight into Missions Collective. There's 4 more weeks. There's going to be 2 house of prayers this month. One of them is tonight. So if you are watching this right now and it's before 6:30, coming out to house of prayer tonight at 6:30. It's going to be an awesome time where we're just going to learn and we're going to grow and we're going to spend some time learning ways to pray. And hate to break this to you, but this is pretty practical because we could take these ways to pray and we could go with them on our adoption week and use these same ways to pray that we've learned at House of Prayer and use them in our adoption week. So it's super practical. Come on out to House of Prayer. Come on out and just help support and encourage our missionaries this month. And let's just celebrate them and honor them for everything that they're doing. And man, as always, we love you and we can't wait to see you again soon.